conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-host, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Sledgehammer I. Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Cool.
Good
evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy on FM 105.3 New Orleans, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal on Torture Tuesdays. Now.
Torture Tuesday.
Tuesday. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's our new
love a little Torture Tuesday.
That's our new I guess slogan.
That's our new slogan, yeah. Torture Tuesdays on Chasing Prophecy.
Yeah,
definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, that was the one.
You know, got the case on the Mondays out of the way. Now we're on Torture Tuesday. Texas Thirsty Thursday.
Exactly. Okay, what happened to Ed? Where'd he go? I guess he didn't understand. I told him. I told this. I shouldn't anything. Oh my God, he totally.
He disappeared.
I guess
he's a ghost. He's a ghost.
He's been ghosted.
Oh, yeah. He's been ghosted. Oh, this is going to be...
You might have to message him.
There he is.
Ed.
Okay. Well, stay there. Don't go anywhere, Ed. He's in the green room. It's gonna be...
It's that Torture Tuesday, computer gremlins.
We're still having a little bit of the full moon left. That's probably what's going on.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to make it today. It's one of those days.
Why not?
I guess I've been watching the news too much, so we're not going to talk. This is our escape for the people, so we're not going to talk about politics.
Dun, dun, dun.
But
there you go.
I got to stay. Hey, Jeff. I got to stay off the TV, so this should be good. So we have 2 hours, or hour and 40 minutes, and it should be a really interesting show tonight. I'm really happy. We have a great guest, so why don't we just get to it, guys? Jason, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest tonight?
Yes, that would be my pleasure. Tonight we're going to have Ed Kelemen. He is a retired Allegheny County officer where he was also one of the founders of the Bomb Squad. How cool is that? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nowadays he's an author, a playwright, a columnist, and he also spends an inordinate amount of time with the Pennsylvania investigators of paranormal phenomena as a technician and a paranormal investigator. Also, during the course of writing his Haunted Pennsylvania collection, consisting of 5 books, he has been involved in over 300 paranormal investigations. Now, this is something I'm really excited to talk about.
Yes.
So where's Ed? Bring him in.
Where's Ed?
Welcome to Chasing Prophecy, Ed.
Ed, welcome.
Hey, Ed. How you doing, Ed?
Hey, welcome. Glad to see you guys. Great. Glad to be here.
Good to see you.
Yeah, we're
glad
excited to have you.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, we're glad to have you too. Get past all the gremlins.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are very happy to have you. Well, Ed, I've been doing a lot of research on you, and you got some amazing books out there. And I'm going to try to do a screenshot. I'm not very good at this, so I'm going to try to put your books on here. No, don't say that.
No, come on,
please
man.
Don't say that, please.
No jinx.
Tuesday.
I'm going to try to do. Now, if I get screwed up, guys, I'm going to have to. You got to let. I can't see the screen. I'm going to try to do a slideshow of all his books, but for some reason, I can't get you back on. I'm going to try to do this. So, we're going to try to do it anyway.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah, really.
There you go.
There it is.
And the angels sing.
I'm going to try to do I don't know if it's going to let me do a slideshow, but I'm going to try. If I have to hit, can you guys see that?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah, I can see it.
I can't see it, so I'm just going to. These are all his books. They're amazing, and we're going to start with the Haunted Route 30, I think.
Okay. Haunted Route 30 was my first book on the Haunted Pennsylvania series.
Okay. What places did you investigate?
Okay. Here's the thing. What this started to be was just an excuse for me to take long rides on my bike. Okay.
Okay.
And I'd be hopping on a bike, and my wife would say, "Where are you going?" I said, "Research." She said, "Can't you do research from a car?" I said, "No, it's not the same thing." And that's kind of how it started. And then I really got into it. And the book wound up, Haunted Route 30 has about 55 or so hauntings along Route 30 in order from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. And they're just like written as if you're riding down the route. They're one after the other, and there's directions how to get from one place to the next place. One thing I don't put in many of my books is people who don't want someone showing up at their front door saying, "Can we see the ghost?" You know, I don't put those guys in the books because they don't need that. And yeah, it was really interesting. And what I did the original Route 30 path, not the one you have today. It was the old Lincoln Highway.
Okay.
And the book starts at Point State Park in Pittsburgh, ends at Philadelphia Tavern, at Old City Tavern in Philadelphia.
Did you get to the Playhouse down there in Point Park?
Oh yeah,
University?
Point Park Playhouse. Yeah. That's, did you know the story about that with the Screaming Red Meanie?
No, I don't.
No,
I never heard that one.
They were wrapping a play there one night, and they broke down the sets, and they're having like a post party, a rap party, and someone brought out a Ouija board, and they started messing with the Ouija board, and next thing they knew, this red apparition appeared and started walking around the table faster and faster and faster. And then it started really running around the stage. And eventually it was actually running on the walls of the auditorium where the stage was. And then all the lights in the building started flashing on and off, and all the telephones in the building started ringing. And then everything went silent. And when I first heard that story, I says, yeah, well, maybe, right? But I actually wound up meeting the lady who was up on stage at that time, and she became the director of the Fort Bedford Museums out there, and that's where I interviewed her. But there was other stuff at the old Point Park complex down there. It's actually up in Oakland, and all kinds of hauntings was going on up there. It was a series of buildings there. One was a lady. Let's see how that worked. She caught her husband with another woman, so she shot him, and then she ran down the hallway and took a header off the third story window and died. Later on, another actor, I think his name was John Johns, I'm not sure. Okay, he's a very good character actor. He had appeared in a lot of productions there, and he passed away. And then from time to time, he would appear on stage at the Playhouse with that woman who had committed suicide, and they would act back and forth between themselves.
Oh my,
that's pretty interesting. We got
that's
the
two
opportunity.
I remember off the top of my head, but there was a number of other ones there too. And then it just went on from there. I mean, you went from Point State Park, and you go along the old Route 30 route, and you go along Mercy Hospital, has a spirit of the nun there, and a person had an operation, and he complimented the staff about this nun that would come to him during the night and help him with a cooling towel and bring him water and stuff. And you described the nun and what she was wearing, the old nun habit, and they told him they knew who there was, Sister Mary something, I can't remember the name now, but remembered who it was, and they told him that nobody in that hospital had worn habits in the last 20 years. It was a deceased nun from there. And it just goes on and on and on. There's just so much history. Where there's history, there's folklore, and there's also hauntings too. You used to go from there to Mercy Hospital to the Bluff at Duquesne University, old Fisher Scientific Building, and then you can wind up. You'll come up to the Point Park's place, the old Pittsburgh Playhouse up there.
Yep.
University of Pittsburgh, the Cathedral, Carnegie Library, and museums, and just keeps on going. It's a fantastic trip all the way along there, 55 locations. It's really interesting.
I see a
I've
long
been to
journey
every
road
location
trip in the future.
What got you
and
involved
then
into
the
the
book broke up, so you
paranormal?
can make little mini road trips too.
Oh, that'd be game.
Yeah.
What got you involved in the paranormal?
Well, I've always been a writer, but I wasn't writing much in the paranormal. But I wound up on the
Okay.
board of directors at West Overton Museums down in Scottdale, PA. That was the birthplace of Henry Clay Frick. And we were doing a Halloween thing down there. And we did some stage work and stuff like that. We were doing a Halloween show down there where you take people on a tour and you have like the haunted barn and you have like a scene that's a funeral and this kind of stuff. And I would start at the mansion, and I was dressed in character as my character called Little Butch Bo Peep. You can picture me in a polka dot hoop dress, okay, 48 double D bra.
Oh, my.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, it took the Sunday edition to stuff that one. And then blonde wig, a bonnet, a shepherd's crook, my work boots, and of course my beard. I wasn't shaving my beard.
You probably looked lovely.
Yo, I was wonderful. And I started in the mansion and to bring people down through the mansion. And it was kind of tongue in cheek. I'd be down in the basement of the mansion. I'd say, now here's something over here. It's very rare. You people have never seen anything like this before. This is the original 1812 microwave. And and some people actually believe it. But anyhow, I was walking along, and there's haunts. There's legitimate haunts there also. And I was walking along at one point, and a disembodied voice said, "Here, take this," and knocked my bonnet off my head. And someone caught it like 2 rows back in the crowd out of the air. At the exact same time that was happening to me, my young son was in a place called the Stock Barn where they had a mock funeral. And he was up on the 2nd floor, and his job was to like drag chains back and forth and make spooky sounds. Well, they had a crew come through there. He did that. And then he stopped dragging the chains after the crew left. Well, the noise didn't stop. And then all the farm utensils on the wall started shaking and rattling. Previous to that, another friend of mine had an occurrence in the distillery. So I was talking to her, and she was a writer, and we got to write a book about this place. So we did. We wrote a book called Weird West Overton, but there's like 8 or 9 different haunts there, and that got me started.
That's crazy.
It turned out to be a good seller for them. So then the next thing I know, I started working on the route. Well, I did one called the Haunted Foothills about the hauntings in the Highlands in Laurel Highlands. And I did the Route 30 book, and then the Route 22 book, and just on and on.
Sounds like Pennsylvania is really active.
Actually, it is.
Yeah.
Have you ever made it to the Jean Bonnet?
Oh yes. The Jean Bonnet is in my book, and I did investigation there too. The Jean Bonnet has, I believe, right now 4 active haunts. Okay, before they had 5. Back in the 1760s, General Forbes caught a teamster who they considered a spy for the other side. So back in those days, they didn't put him on probation; they hung him. And because the guy was known in the area, and Forbes had a small detachment with him, he didn't want the word to get out. He hung him in the basement of the building, and then they buried him in the basement floor. Now, as time went on, this guy, his spirit would appear from time to time, and people would get the idea that there must be money involved because Forbes buried this guy, and he was buried with a pound of silver, and a pound of silver became 2 pounds of silver. Then he had gold. Then it became jewelry and all this other kind of stuff. And it just fell right into folklore, and nobody believed it, even though his spirit would appear from time to time. Well, the family that bought the Jean Bonnet, they put a real nice upscale restaurant in the basement. In order to do that, they had to lower the floor 2 feet. Now, this teamster guy who's been haunting this place for like 200 years, they dug down and they found his remains. And basically all it was a few bone chips and a couple buttons and stuff. But anyhow, they had it reburied properly in a cemetery over in Bedford. And when they did that, he stopped haunting the place.
So he just needed to be like put the rest and put the peace rather than how it all went down.
Right. And that's that's kind of stuff like that. And we do a lot. The group we started called P.I.P.P, Pennsylvania Investigators of Paranormal Phenomenon. We do a lot of investigations. Our whole aim is to help the spirits and help the people that are being bothered by the spirits. We don't do this for, I don't know if I can say this. It's a podcast. I guess I can say, no, we're on the air. Okay. we don't do it for fun. There's a group I call the giggles crowd. You know what goes with giggles, right? And we don't do it that way. One thing I would like to say, though, is we have our methods of investigating. I work with a couple of psychics, and we have a couple of tech people, and I'm like a halfway techie guy. I know a little bit about the stuff, and I'm the tech man, and I do all the recording and stuff. What I would like to say is there's probably across this state maybe well over 100 paranormal investigative teams, and they all have their own methods. But I've run into some people who think that the method they found is the only method, like they have found the answer, right? I want to tell people, if you come across someone like that, run from them, because if you have an investigative team and your investigative methods is getting results and it's working, then there's nothing. It's good. It's good. That's what works for you, and if it works for you, fine. It may not work for someone else, but it's working for you.
That's the best way to be.
Yeah. But I have run a couple of closed-minded people who think that their way is the only way. And
there's many.
There's many. Yeah. They wind up founding a religion somewhere.
Well, okay, so we have Route 30, and then we have which one? I like the one about. Well, we're going to do the one about the objects. What kind of objects you have? Do you have like the objects? The haunted items.
Oh, the haunted objects.
No, yeah. How did you find? How did you? What is one? Let's go through the most unusual.
Oh, well, my favorite is in there. Okay, it's going to take a little while to tell the story. Okay. It's in there is the haunted cauldron. Okay. Now we got to go back to the 1700s. And in the 1700s, there was a fellow called Anthony Wayne, General Anthony Wayne. He was called Mad Anthony Wayne. Successful businessman, and during the Revolutionary War, he raised his own regiment. His men adored him. He would get them into situations that nobody could get out of, and they would fight their way out and win. And as a matter of fact, after one of these, they come out of, I forget where they were fighting in New Jersey somewhere, and they were supposed to lose, but they won. So on the way back, he stopped at a tavern outside of Philadelphia, and they partied nonstop, 24 hours a day for a solid week on his dime. So you can see why the men loved him. The guy who owned the place loved it so much, he renamed the place the General Wayne Inn, and it had that name all the way up until it closed about 8 years ago. But he went through the war doing this, and the way he got the name Mad Anthony Wayne, he had a fellow working for him who was called Sometimes Jimmy. The reason it's called Sometimes is because Jimmy was a spy, and sometimes Jimmy would actually come back and report to him. One day, Jimmy gets arrested for drunk and disorderly, and he says, "You can't do this to me. I am a personal friend of the general. If you call him, he will tell you, not call him, but send a message to him. He will tell you that I have to be released. I'm essential to his command." And so he sent the note, and Anthony Wayne, in turn, sent a message back saying, "Not only is this guy not a friend of mine, but if I were you, I'd lay on an extra 20 lashes on him." And that guy said, "He's mad. That's what he is. Anthony Wayne is mad." And the name stuck. That's how he actually got the name. But anyhow, he went through the war. He was a war hero. Everything's named after him. Waynesburg, Wayne County, Waynesboro. There's Wayne, Indiana. These are all named after him. He was so popular. And after the war, he went down to Georgia and got elected to the Senate. And he was elected to the Senate for just a couple of weeks, and there was something about irregularities with the ballots. So he had to resign and leave Georgia. He come up to Pennsylvania, come back up to Pennsylvania. Of course, him being crooked, first thing they did was appoint him to the legislature. And then he was there. Then General Washington, who was president at the time, called him back into the Army to go to the Northwest Territories, which at the time was Cleveland, and settle the Native Americans there, which he did. While he was there, he contracted gout. And so he worked his way back to Erie, and he died of complications of gout. So, this guy along the way, all these different things he did, it could have been the end of his story. He was a war hero, end of the story. He could have a senator, end of the story. Legislator, end of the story. Called back in, settled the Indians, end of the story. But the story's just beginning now. They buried him at the foot of the flagpole at Prescott, at the military base there. So, okay, there's old Tony there. He's under the flagpole. Back in Philadelphia, his daughter Margaretta, she starts aggravating her brother. So this isn't right. Dad is out of heathen country. Something ought to be done. He deserves a good burial in a Presbyterian church back here in Philadelphia. So she aggravates him for 10 years. And finally says, okay, darn it, I'll go get Dad. So he loads up a trap, which is like a sports car for horses, just two wheels with a seat and an old trunk in the back. 300 and some miles, almost 400 miles from Philadelphia to Erie back in those days on dirt roads and stuff. Goes all the way up there. And Dad's under the flagpole. They dig up Dad. And to their surprise, because of soil conditions or something, dear old Dad, his body didn't rot. So the doctor says, the same Dr. Bronson dead was actually his personal doctor. Doctor says, no problem. I'll just boil the meat off the bones and you can take the bones back. And so the son said, well, okay, I'm going to go in town and get drunk while you're doing that. So he took a couple of days, and they boiled the meat off the bones. They used this big cauldron, and they had tools they used to scrape the meat off the bones and all this other stuff. So then the kid loads the stuff back onto the trap, and it's like in a wooden box back on the axle, and he rides back. So you get down to about Lewistown, Pennsylvania, old Route 322. Right about there, the hasp on the box works its way loose, and the bones start bouncing out. Now, meanwhile, back in Erie, where they dug the hole up and they dug him up, they poured the juice and the meat and all the leftovers back into that hole and put the coffin lid on top of it and threw the cauldron in some of the tools. So anyhow, now we're back down to Route 322. His bones are bouncing out. And the son doesn't know this. He gets back to Philadelphia. When he gets back to Philadelphia, he has about 40% of Dad's bones. So they bury him there. And that should be the end of the story, but not. Back in Erie, now he's buried properly in Philadelphia. Nice little, he has a beautiful monument and everything else. But he's like misses his bones, and he appears from time to time. And he's a little upset about that. But you go back to Erie, where they buried the meat and the juice and the fat and all this other stuff when they boiled them stuff off. They built a guardhouse over top of where he was buried. A few years goes by, the guardhouse burns down. So they build another guardhouse on top of it. A few years goes by, that guardhouse burns down. And instead of building another guardhouse, they leveled the field and used it for a parade ground. So after about 30 years, they forgot where they had buried his stuff. They just lost it. In 1880, I think it was 1882, a fellow comes by, wants to find him. So he goes on his hands and knees all over that thing till he found burnt evidence of burnt posts and stuff, and that's where that guardhouse was. And dig, and he finds the cauldron. They find the coffin lid. Now by then, of course, there's nothing else left. All our stuff is sunk into the ground. And so, what do you think they did there, where the coffin lid was and everything else? They built another guardhouse on top of it. So today, that coffin lid and a plaque and everything is still inside that guardhouse up on Prescott. The cauldron and the tools that they used was given to the Erie County Historical Society, and they have it in there at the Historical Society. So certain nights, guardsmen in the building, we walk around, they can hear the cauldron rattling inside the closet where it's kept, and they can open it up and they see the tools and stuff will rattle around in there. Like, I call him, used to be Matt Anthony, now I call him Pissed Off Tony, because now he wants to find his stuff. And so then that's going on there. Now he was born on New Year's Day. So on New Year's Day, his spirit has been seen in full military regalia galloping along on his war horse down on the stretch of Route 322 where his bones were lost. And then in Philadelphia, an apparition comes about at certain places, certain times around the grave. So what you got this guy who was a hero and everything else. He's buried in 3 different places. You know,
God.
some of his bones are in Philadelphia. Some of his bones are scattered along the road near Lewiston, and then the muscles and everything else was poured into a hole in Erie. So you see why I say he's upset Tony. He's not really not happy.
No.
And he's my favorite. He's my favorite in that book, in the book about the hauntings. And I have a picture of a cauldron and stuff.
Let's see. Is it like a witch's cauldron?
Well, it kind of does. It kind of the actual one kind of does look like that. What it is if you can picture a great big copper pot that they would sit on top of a fire. That's basically what it was. You know, hold about maybe 10 or 15 gallons.
That's a pretty big cauldron.
Yeah. Have you seen these items? I mean, up close and personal.
Yes, I've seen the cauldron and the tools up in Erie in storage up there.
So when you saw them, could you feel like when you saw these items up close and in person, could you feel like the energy radiate off of them from the spirit?
No. I'm not psychic. Okay, I have a little bit of abilities. I've been described as an empath, but I don't have any real psychic abilities. Now, when I'm working with my partner on the team, that she's a very, very good psychic. If I'm like within 2 foot of her, sometimes a little bit of her abilities will bleed off on me. For instance, we were doing an investigation at a theater, and we're up on the stage, and she says, "You see that old couple back there in the corner?" And I look and say, "Darn, yeah, I can see them." And she says, "Well, they don't want us here." but I could see them that time, and certain other times when I'm with her, I can. But normally I am not psychic, and I have no psychic abilities really.
Have you ever brought her up to Erie to check out the cauldron?
No, she wasn't. She wasn't along on that particular investigation. I did a lot of stuff I did for the books. I did on my own, and I also did with a different psychic. And we work along that way. But like with Bev, her name is Beverly Lagorga. She's a very good psychic, very talented. We do a lot of investigating together, and we do a lot of stuff in private homes, and we help them out that way.
Well, we do.
One place that we did is you heard of the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania down near Strasburg?
Yep.
Okay, it's an amazing place. We got called in there by the curator to do a paranormal investigation, because I had written one of the books in my Haunted Pennsylvania series called The Haunted Railroads of Pennsylvania. So naturally, I figured that's a good place to sell the book in their gift shop. So I go down here and I'm huckstering the book to the lady, and they bought it for some books, and she says the curator wants to talk to you. And I'm thinking I'm a product of parochial schools. I figured, it's like the principal. What'd I do? Why do you want to talk to me? Yeah. And so I go over and talk to him, and he says, we've been having some difficulties with paranormal activity here in the museum. Would you be interested in doing an investigation here? And outside, I said to him, yeah, I think we could do that. Inside, I'm going, yeah, right.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
This place is huge. It has inside the building, it has like more than 50 restored pieces of historic railroad equipment, and everything's immaculate. It's restored better than the day it was built, and there's so much history and everything with that. So I bring Bev up there, and also the other psychic work, Kat. The first time with Bev, walk up there, and she walks in, and she just stopped dead inside a door, and the place was just completely packed. She says, "There's hundreds of people here and everything. I don't see anybody. And we estimate in that building is between 8,000 and 10,000 spirits.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's what we call residual hauntings. It's residual haunting. It's imprinted on the environment. It's not a spirit that you can interact with. In that whole museum, we have about 3, maybe 4 spirits that we call intelligent or active spirits that we can interact with. But the residual hauntings is when the energy has been imprinted on a place or an object or something like that. And when conditions are right, you'll get an apparition. Sometimes you get electronic voice phenomenon, that kind of stuff. But in there you have in that museum you have railroad equipment from all these years. Excuse me. Now, one of the pieces of equipment has the engineer on there, and he thinks he's still making runs. Okay, and you can interact with him. What got us called in there's a big old steam locomotive, number 1187. And the curator told me people would tour the museum. On the way out, they would stop at the ticket booth, and they would congratulate people in the ticket booth. They'll say, "This place is fantastic. Those reenactors you have are so authentic. On that big engine over there, that 1187 engine, those guys are so authentic. They even have soot on their faces." And they tell them, "Well, there's no reenactors in this museum." And when we had, and a couple other ones, your piece of equipment was in such bad shape that before they could restore it, they had to encase it in steel. And we had activity in there that we could interact with. But we got so much activity in there that I wrote a book just about that place. And as a matter of fact, I'm going there tomorrow.
Take us with you. Take us with you.
Do you have any pictures or anything like evidence?
Oh yeah, especially at the museum. In the museum, I have that 1187 locomotive I was telling you about. I have a shadow figure that I have it on tape, on a video, that walking across the back of the tender. That's one there. And then in the what's this other one? It's an old passenger car. It predates the Pullman cars. I have a stick figure that walks back and forth across the tops of the seats in that one. And then they have another car that they used for training railroad workers how to operate the air brake systems on the car. And I got a video as Beverly's walking down there. They had like 5 training stations inside the car. As she's walking along, a figure detaches from one of the training stations and walks alongside her the length of the car. And then when she stopped, it continued on into the office at the back of the car. Plus, we have all kinds of EVPs in there. It's just incredible.
Why do you think it's just residual hauntings and not like just a spirit?
Well, because we can't interact with them. They're there.
They just won't communicate.
It's more or less almost like looking at a hologram or a loop.
So it's like energy that's left behind from them.
Right, that's what it is. It's energy that's left behind, and then when other energy builds up to a point, it'll tip it, and you'll be able to see it or hear it. And I compare it to those. You ever go to a water park and see the great big bucket with the kids that will be underneath there, and it fills up with water? That's why I compare it to the energy builds to a certain point, and it tips, and these things become visible or audio, or they'll come up on audio.
Why do you think there's so many there?
Because the railroad equipment, goes back to as early as 1832, 34, all the way up through now. And we have trains there was used for troop transport in the Civil War, the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, and the Korean War. And these soldiers, they were transported on that. We're waiting to go back on, Beverly has to go back to one of the cars because some of the soldiers, the spirits of the soldiers on the car, there's an active one in there, and he begged her to come back because he wants to tell her the story. And she was exhausted that day and couldn't continue. So, and then COVID hit. So, we will be going back to continue on that one. But just every one of those things that you have these. I set up a video camera down the aisle of a passenger car that was operable back in the 1860s. Okay, and I run that video, and then I have to stare at it on a computer, and so I'm staring at like 2.5 hours of a video when nothing's happening, which makes your eyes cross. But on this particular time, we set up the thing, we left the car, and after about 10 minutes, you hear a voice like goes, but you can't make out what they're saying. It's like a mumble. Then pep, 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 then you're pep, 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 pep. Next thing you know is the sound of an entire railroad car of people talking to each other. And this is going on, on the audio portion of the video. Then all of a sudden, it stops like you flipped the switch. and the next thing you see our heads bouncing along the windows coming back to the car, almost as if they said, they're coming back, we better shut up. And that's just another one down there at the Railroad Museum.
We just want to take a real quick break. If there's anybody have a question for Ed, you can go ahead and post them in the chat. I believe there's a number of different chats open. There's YouTube. There's Pittsburgh Paranormal Society. There's UFO Paranormal Radio. So there's a number of different ones. International Community for Alien Research. So if you have a question for Ed, please post it, and Jason or Sean or I will read that and give it to Ed.
All right, yeah, I'll do my best to answer the question.
Hey,
Yeah.
Ed,
Go ahead.
I got a question real quick.
Sure.
When you say that whenever you interact with spirits, how do you interact?
Okay, I interact with them, excuse me, using a digital recorder and also using digital video equipment. The other way that I will interact with a spirit is with a K2 meter using yes and no questions. And what we tell them, because their energy is what spirits are, their energy. And as they get closer to the K2 meter, it will send it higher and higher. And we do yes and no questions. I say, the closer you come, that will light it up, and that'll mean yes. And you back off, and that'll be nothing, and means no. So you have to use yes and no questions. The other thing that I use is dowsing rods. And same thing, it's yes and no questions. You cross the rods for a yes, spread the rods out for a no. And then I get EVPs on the digital recordings and stuff. But that is usually, excuse me, with the recordings, that is usually Beverly will be interacting with a spirit, and she will ask questions, okay? And I don't hear anything. She'll hear the answer. I don't hear anything. But when I play it back on the audio with the digital recorder, I'll oftentimes get the answer will come back on the recorder. And it's just verification of what she's doing.
It's always cool to catch EVPs and stuff, you know.
What's that?
From different. It's always pretty cool to catch EVPs, you know, spirits actually communicating with you. It's like,
oh yeah,
like you said, you can't hear them, but then you go back and review, you're like, oh, I just heard, you know, it answered my question, like spot on.
What is really funny is I have two really good digital recorders, but the audio, I have a Nikon SLR with digital. Okay. What is really funny is I get better audio results in that Nikon than I do with my digital recorders.
Yeah. What do you get, Justin? What do you got? I think we've been on a couple investigations where your video camera picked up some noises too, didn't it?
Yeah. I use digital video cameras as well, and I have a full spectrum DSLR camera. We have K2s, but my favorite piece of equipment that I have is a Zoom H1 digital recorder, just a handheld. Mine's about 15 years old, and it's just still probably the best piece of equipment I have for picking up EVPs. But I've also realized that my video cameras that I have, which are Panasonic HC VX981s with night vision, with I use a Rode shotgun mic on there, and I'm starting to realize they're picking up a lot of stuff. It's just amazing, you know. Then comparing the two together, you know, you catch it on one, sometimes you catch it on both, sometimes, you know.
Yeah, that's great. And sometimes you'll catch it on two of them at the same time, which is really good.
Yeah.
Because
that just verifies it all.
I'll run side by side, and one will catch it and one won't.
Right.
And that's and then another thing is that I use a program called Audacity. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
it's free because I don't have a lot of money. I download all this stuff. I'll download all my audio into Audacity, and I'm at the point now. If I get maybe 10 minutes into an audio, and I start picking up EVPs, I can spot the EVPs by their wave sign, which was really cool. Yeah.
Now you want one thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now I wanted to ask you, since you were talking about sound waves and stuff there. I'm going to see if you experience the same thing I have. So I use Logic Pro for, you know, going back and review. Same, you know, it's Audacity, Logic Pro. You know, they all do essentially the same thing. But anyways, I've noticed that even if I could see the sound wave of the EVP, I have yet to find it, but I'll do like a sweep on the on an EQ of the whole frequency range, and they do not come through on any particular frequency. They're there,
Right.
But so it's really, I wanted to see if you experienced that too. Like they're on a total different frequency realm.
It's almost as though they're hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But I can spot the wave signs, and what is funny is sometimes I'll play it back 5 times and I'll hear it 3 times, and other times will be always. And I'll slow it down and I'll increase the volume and stuff, but beyond that, we don't like to use filters or anything like that because we think that contaminates it.
Yeah,
it does. Mm-hmm. It ain't a pure EVP, and I don't believe of alternating anything.
The only thing that I do personally is like I'll put like a high and low pass filter on just to get rid of like rumble and stuff. That's below a certain hertz range.
Well, yeah, that and white noise.
Just ambient sound.
Yeah, getting rid of some of the white noise.
Yeah, just to really help the EVP itself come through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And one thing we do is that we will only accept like Class A EVPs. Okay. If I have to tell someone to listen to it more than once before they hear it, then it's not an EVP. It's audio pareidolia, and I get a lot of that. We get a lot of that too.
Yeah, we do too.
I got to share a story with you. I'm sitting up here in my office, where I am right now, and it's daytime. It's like in the morning, and I'm working on a computer, and I hear rap. And I said, "Oh, damn it! Something followed me home from the last investigation." So I said, "Rap." I said, "Okay, I'll converse with you. 1 rap means yes, 2 raps mean no. You got that? You're rap." I said, "Don't mess with me." So now, then I get it going. I'm carrying on a conversation for like 45 minutes with rap. My son comes home. He comes up the steps up to my office. Hey, Dad. I said, "What?" He said, "You know what? There's a woodpecker right above the window in your office."
What do you got you?
That's funny. Hey, Ed, I have a question.
You can laugh at yourself too because I've had that stuff.
Yeah. Have you ever gone on an investigation?
My eyes start crossing.
Have you ever been on an investigation where your psychic wouldn't let you go in?
Would not let me go in.
Yeah, well, not investigate it because she just didn't feel right about it.
Yes. I'm trying to think where that was. Would have. Oh boy, it was a place down in Menneson.
Right down the street from me. Nice.
And we were going in there, and we're going to do an investigation, and it just stopped dead in her tracks. There, a couple of murders that occurred in there, and she just couldn't handle the negative energy, and we didn't go in.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was just pure negative energy is what it was. Nothing as far as malevolent spirit or anything like that. When we encounter something that we think might be like involved with a demon or demonology, we just get the hell out of there. That's not what we don't know how to handle them. But we do have friends who can, and we refer them to those people. Especially, we have a couple of Native American shamans that we know, and they are very experienced at getting at exorcising demons. And also, it's not like TV. Demons are rare; they're very rare. In the last 15 years, maybe I've encountered maybe 2. It's not like TV where every time you hear something fall down the steps, you jump and say, "Hey, it's a demon."
Yeah,
dude,
I agree with you, Ed. I agree with you 100%.
Another thing that I try to tell people is spirits are nothing to be afraid of because all they are is people. That's all they are.
Yeah,
we're on the same page. Yes.
Yeah.
The body has died and the essence lives on, and you treat them with respect, and you'll get good results. I only had one case. I only had one case. I had to be confrontational, and it was because the spirit was terrorizing a 4-year-old kid, And,
Not cool.
That's not
it was
good.
a
That's
spirit of
not
a nasty
cool.
old man. He would just like jump out of the closet as the kid going, boo, all kind of stuff like that. And
That's not nice.
so we cleansed that house big time.
So have you ever had? I got to
What?
ask you this because I've experienced this myself. So I want to ask you this: have you ever had like a spirit run up on you where you heard it, your cameras picked up its noise, and it scared the bejesus out of you?
Yeah.
And then it was gone. Have you ever had that happen?
I've had it happen, but it didn't scare me.
Oh my God.
Just this past weekend, we were doing an investigation, and a spirit just like run up and just brushed past me, trying to get out of a room. And all I did was say, "Well, excuse me," you know. And,
Tell them your story, Jason.
I have no fear of the spirits because they're just people. And another thing I have to remember is all they are is basically their energy, and they can't do anything unless they absorb energy to build up a storehouse of energy to even make themselves known, because they have no energy of their own. That's why you find them run power plants along railroad tracks,
Really?
where there is energy, along rivers
lines.
and streams. Yeah, any place where there's lots of energy.
Why? But why? Just because they're sucking the energy, or what?
Yeah, the EMF that's emitted from like the power lines and everything is just
right. Yeah, they absorb
love it.
They absorb the energy. When they get enough energy, then they can make themselves known. Sometimes with voice, some partial apparitions, mist, this kind of stuff, depending on how much energy they get. If you looked in the Route 30 book, I have a picture in the Route 30 book of a spirit here down in Allegheny, full body, full color apparition. Really interesting. And we tracked him down and found out who he was and everything too.
Did you get evidence on a camera?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a couple copies. A friend of mine took the picture, and they have a large version of that picture on display down at the tavern, because it was a spirit of a former customer. He used to come in every day around 4:00 for a shot and a beer, watch the news, and go home. And the picture was taken 6 years after he died, and it just shows he's up there at the bar, with a cigar in his hand, and it's plain as day.
I do have a question not a question. I want to know, how'd you get into the haunted churches and cemeteries? Did you not write a book on it?
How did I know that question was
coming?
Yes,
I wrote a book
P.I.P.P.
on Pennsylvania haunted churches and cemeteries. Okay.
Yes.
Cemeteries are no problem. You just go in there. And here's the thing.
Right.
I'm not crawling around a cemetery at night. The spirits are there 24 hours a day. You don't have to be there, at night. The only thing night does is give you a little bit of solitude and spookiness. You get the spooky factor. But the funny thing is, the first 3 cemeteries I investigated weren't even haunted. They very had a history of being haunted, but they weren't. And so I like debunked them. Yeah, there it is there. But most of the residents of the cemetery, they're at peace. That's a peaceful place for them. Usually spirits will haunt a place where there's some kind of trauma or an important event in their life takes place. But like I say, and as far as investigating the churches, I was very circumspect about that. Some of the places I actually got permission. Other places I went in without permission. Okay. And same thing with the cemeteries. I didn't ask anybody's permission to go to a cemetery, because as far as I'm concerned, cemetery is a public place. And as long as you're respectful, you're okay. And
it's easier to ask for
being respectful.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission too, right?
What?
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Hey, so I got one for you. I want to see what your thoughts are on this. When it comes to spirits, what's your thoughts on why some spirits like stick around as compared to like heading to heaven or hell per se? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the way I feel about this is that spirits will be on this side without crossing over. They usually have some sort of a reason for it. Lots of times it's they have a message they need to deliver, or they have unfinished business on this side. cases involving murder. Pretty common with that. A spirit will stay back on his side and keep nudging people to get the murder solved.
Okay.
Excuse me. Other ones, the spirit has to have a message delivered. And then sometimes they die so fast they don't know they're dead.
Right.
And they're like just there, and they don't even know they're dead. And sometimes they're held on this side. I don't know if my good friend Patsy Wilson, okay, she was a founder of the Ghost Research Foundation. That was, that lasted like 25 years. We did an investigation at a cavern where we found the spirits of young children that were actually captured against, at their funerals. A guy was capturing them, using them for life force or something. I don't know. But we were able to get those kids crossed over, and we were able to trap the renegade spirit. And as a matter of fact, he's permanently trapped. He's up there inside the cavern, and the cavern's now sealed. So he's going to be there for a while.
Wow.
So they're held against their will. One of my favorite stories is in my Paranormal PA book. It's called Rosie and Mac. Mac was a truck driver, and he died. And his spirit, after he was dead, his spirit called his wife on the phone, and she didn't know he was dead yet. She hadn't been notified of the truck accident yet. This goes back to like the 1930s or early 40s. And he called her on the phone, and he told her how he wanted his funeral to be. And she's saying, "Why are you telling me this?" and everything. And then he told her, he says, upstairs in a bedroom, the dresser drawer, if you pull the drawer out, taped to the underneath side of the drawer is my insurance papers. You'll get enough money there, you'll be able to keep the farm. And that's what she did. And when she went up there, she found that. And it was later on that day, the sheriff got in touch with her and told her that he'd been in an accident the previous night and died. And so he's delivering a message. That's a very important message. And of course, and Rosie, she was like 19 at the time with 2 kids, and she lived to be 92 and never remarried.
Oh my!
Oh, that's something. Just a little spare second here. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Carnation, for sponsoring our show tonight. Jason, what it's like when we do them long nighters where we need our coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Lots of coffee.
Yeah,
and,
you can always get these breakfasts.
Carnation, instant carnations, man. They're good.
That's right.
These are really good. You just got a packet, and you just put them in your drink. I got some milk here. Mm-hmm. And I'll show you. You just
Chasing Prophecy goes cooking class.
There's only 150 calories in these, and you just put it in, and you just get to whip it up. It's loaded with. It's loaded. These are start lights. So if you could see it, it's kind of messed up. There you go.
There you go.
Do you have chocolate or vanilla?
Oh,
I got the chocolate, and I'm gonna whip it up right now.
Whip it good.
I got one of these fancy whippers. I got some.
Hey, you got the sunglasses.
Whipping with Jenny.
There you are.
These are really good. These are the light ones. So if you're on trying to watch those calories.
Is there any froth?
Yes, I wish you could see. It is really good.
Is that that instant breakfast drink?
Yeah, it's the light start carnation.
I love that stuff.
And it's like it's loaded with vitamins, and you can. There's
How much
also,
you got to whisk it?
I like it. I like a lot of froth. See? Just sprayed myself.
He just walked right into that one, hon.
Cheers.
Oh, you're all frothy now.
It's really good for, especially it's 150 calories, and I use almond milk because I don't like.
Ew, that's gross.
I don't like regular milk. No, almond milk is unsweetened with the carnation.
Did you ever see the milk and almond? It's crazy.
Isn't it kind of like tedious to get the milk out of the almonds?
I got spike it with a little whiskey.
You got to use. Never mind.
Anything almond, I'm not.
It doesn't taste like almond. It doesn't taste like when you put it in here. It just tastes like milk. It doesn't, but it's really good. But thanks, Carnation, for sponsoring our second hour, and we'll mention again in the halfway through and at the end. Sean, that's your job at the end. Okay. Cheers.
Enjoy your frothy.
Although it's making my nose run, so I don't know.
You better go catch it then. Jeez.
It's really good. You can do ASMR too with it.
What are you whispering? Oh.
I was saying ASMR carnation.
So nobody could hear us on the live radio. You got to whisper.
Yes. So Ed,
no.
Out of all your 300 investigations that you have done, what was your best one ever?
Oh, let me see.
Oh, this is going to be good.
My best one or my most interesting one, or what? You know,
no, your very, very best one that you just cherished till now. Like
I want to hear about his interesting one too. I'd like to hear his top three.
I'd
his
like
top
to hear
three.
the best one too.
Best, most
three.
interesting, and most scary.
Well,
we can do that.
My most satisfying one was getting that spirit out of that house where he was terrorizing a little boy. Okay, that was my most satisfying one, and
I could agree with that.
We had to go back to that house 3 times because the son of a gun kept hiding from us, and we didn't know it was an old farmhouse. We didn't know that there was a hidden room in the house. And the third time we got back there, we found the hidden room, and that's where this nasty old spirit was hiding from us, because we were loaded for bear. And I have some very close friends that are Wiccans, okay, and so I get material off of them too. And I went in there. We had sage, we had peace water, we had sage water, we had tar water. We also had holy water, and we went in there and we got that guy out of there. We finally got him out, but it was so nice because the little boy wouldn't even sleep in the house. And then when we cleared that house, he went to his mom and dad. He says, "Mommy, Daddy, it's so nice in there now, and it just made us feel good." That was a good one, and that was fairly recent. I think that was about a year or two ago. And then, like I said, my most interesting ones is working there at the Railroad Museum. But we like to do it in a way that we feel we're helping people. And we recently had one that was really complicated, and I was glad to get done with it. It excuse me. It involved. I'm gonna have to. It involved a house that was kind of historic, okay, and the house was built on a retreat path of a Revolutionary War battle and a French and Indian War battle. No, French and Indian War, not Revolutionary. French and Indian War battle. There was spirits all over the place, but the problem they were having was there was a spirit that was kind of a shape changer. It wasn't like it was just appearing as different things. It would appear as it would appear as a human being with a dog's head, and it would do things like crawling up the walls and stuff.
Oh, jeez.
We went back. We went to that house, and I'm not kidding you. We cleared that place out. It was unbelievable. I got some video of shadow figures in there of a the punching bag, the big bag, the heavy bag that they punch, the heavy bag.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a video of one of those just swinging them by its own. It's getting hit and swinging, and there's nobody there. Also, I have on video a child's rocking horse, and a voice is coming out of the rocking horse saying, "Get out, get out."
Oh, see you later. I'm out.
Well, basically, that's what happened. Not to us. That scared them, and so we go in here and we completely cleanse that house. Then we go outside the house and we cleanse an area around the house to prevent anything from coming in, because there was a portal outside the house, and so we cleanse there to keep them from coming in through that portal. And everything was all hunky dory, and everybody was happy and everything else. A week later, we get a call, they're back. We go back there and we do it all over again. Then we get called back a third time. And the third time we get called back is when we learned that the two women in the house, the one in particular, was dabbling in witchcraft.
Ooh.
And she was,
Yeah.
but she wasn't trained. She was what they call a dabbler. She wasn't trained. And so instead of practicing, like we call white magic or black magic, what was happening with her is it was chaotic magic, because she didn't, you had no idea how those spells were going to turn out, what the results were going to be. And half the time they would be bad. So in order to do that one, I had to call in two of my friends who are witches. They're fairly high up in the Wiccan religion. One is lives up in Hermitage, PA, up near Sharon. Her name is Sibel. Another one lives in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. Her name is Marita. And I had to call those two in because that was beyond me. I couldn't figure out. There's nothing. We're saying we're doing everything right. And then we found out that what we're doing is getting undone. So those two came in, and they put up spell blockers and all kinds of stuff that they do, and cleanse the house and everything. And the one who was practicing the witchcraft was the nanny of the house. And we had to go down to the nanny's house and clear that one out too. And down at that house, we found, I'm not kidding you, this number sounds astronomical, but I'm not kidding you. We found 14 portals that she had opened in that house. Every darn mirror in that house was a portal.
Holy crap, man.
And it was exhausting.
Lord.
And then finally, the two friends of mine who are witches, they told us, we're not going to do this unless you allow us to put a spell of binding on you. And a spell of binding means that she can no longer ever in her lifetime be able to do any kind of witchcraft.
Wow.
And she said, oh, okay. So they did. They cast a spell of binding. It took them 48 hours to cast that spell. It's a complicated spell. Jeez. When they did, that woman could no longer practice any kind of witchcraft at all. And 2 days later, she called back and wanted to be unbound. And I told Maria, I said, well, just tell her she's unbound, but don't unbind her.
Oh,
yeah. And then we told her, when we found out about this witchcraft, because Beverly, as soon as Beverly found out that that was going on, she refused to go back to that house at all. She wouldn't go back. She can't stand.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I don't blame her. I don't think I would either.
And it was interesting, and it got a little strange, a little weird.
Hey Ed, we have a question from, I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Tava.
Look, I got to help her.
Tavia.
That's a beautiful kitty. She said, with your experience with the paranormal, if when you do, you persist in this purgatory, what would you do as a ghost to communicate most efficiently with future investigators, or would you not want to react?
It would depend. Yes, it would depend. I probably wouldn't want to interact with investigators unless I knew them and knew who they were and what they were up to. I'm not into the ghost hunting crowd, and the Ghostbusters, that kind of stuff. I'm not into that.
I got a list. I got a list that long. I'm going to hunt.
Okay. Yeah. She also says, if you were locked in a singular dungeon room your entire life and led to believe that was the entire world, regardless of what exists outside of it, you would not attempt to leave, because as far as you're concerned, this is all there is to see. So would you stay there?
Well, she kind of answered her own question.
Or stay here.
That sounds like some awesome song lyrics.
Yeah, you mean after you died, would your spirit stay there?
I guess that's what she's asking.
I imagine after the body died, if the spirit lived on and the spirit was capable of leaving that room, us human beings, we are the most curious people in the world. We're always trying to figure out stuff. So you want to know what the hell's on the other side of that door, and if you were in a spiritual condition, you were able to pass through that door, I'd probably give it a shot.
Yeah, and she also
never know what's on the other side.
She said, here's an interesting thought. She says, what if the spirit is stuck here because they simply don't believe and therefore cannot see any other route? What if to them there is no heaven or hell? or even some other place, ascension or dimensional travel, reincarnation, whatever it may be? What if their belief defines where they end up? Well, yeah.
Whatever turns them on, I don't know. I have no, I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. Because every civilization going all the way back to cavemen had a concept of an afterlife.
Yeah.
There's a concept of an afterlife. We call it, the Greeks call it the Elysian fields. They call it, and the bad guys went to Hades, and the Norse call it the Valhalla, and Christians call it heaven. And every major religion has some kind of a concept of an afterlife, and civilizations are the same way. Look at all the aggravation the Egyptians put themselves through so they could live on their afterlife.
Think about it. They were convinced they were taking that stuff with them too. There was a movie with Robin Williams. Do you guys know what it was? Where this man believed when he died, he went to see his wife in, I guess it would be heaven or the afterlife. It's a really deep movie, but I can't remember the name of it.
I can't think of it either.
I can't either.
It was really bizarre. I guess, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, and but,
whatever you perceive it is.
It's like if some guy pulls a gun on me, cocks it, and is ready to pull the trigger, and I tell him I don't believe in that gun, so you can't shoot me. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, that's the only analogy I could give that. It's like just because you don't believe in something doesn't make it not be there.
That's true. I can understand that. Okay, Ed. Okay, your other book, The Haunted Railroads. Now we talked about the museum. What do you believe is the most haunted railroad, and why would it be haunted?
It's the most massive haunt along railroads is Duffy's Cut down in Malvern, PA. Okay, that is outside Philadelphia. It's part of the Philadelphia Main Line, the old Pennsylvania Railroad. In 1832, they were laying rails from Philadelphia to Harrisburg, and today's word Malvern, there was a large hill there that had to be cut through to lay this track. Now, when they were doing this, they didn't have locomotives yet. The rail cars were being pulled by horses. So, they couldn't have lots of grades or anything. Very shortly afterwards, they were able to get the small engines and stuff. However, a fellow by name McDuffie goes over to Ireland, and he gets 56 Irishmen, and one Irish woman. Catherine Burns was the Irish woman. She was 27. And he brought them over here, promising them a new life. And what they got for their promise, they got like 6 weeks in a rat and roach infested ship that brought them down and dumped them on the docks in Philadelphia. And it worked their way out there, and they lived in a little tent village while they were doing this stuff. And it was miserable work because it was oil shale and sticky and everything else. And they were doing this by hand. They had to cut right through the hillside to lay the rail tracks. Well, it was 1832, and it was the same time what was going on in Philadelphia was the religion wars plus cholera epidemic. Okay. The religion wars was that don't forget, these guys come from Ireland. They're all Catholics. Okay. So the non-Catholics in the in Philadelphia, they were burning down Catholic churches and vice versa and stuff like that. And this was going on at that same time. And then a cholera epidemic came in. Well, 2 of these people got sick. So people around there immediately thought it was a cholera outbreak. And the first 2 that got sick, when they died, they buried them under the blacksmith shop because they figured the graves would be disturbed. Well, their neighbors around that area where they were doing the building the cut through, came over and massacred them. They killed all 57 of them. They didn't even waste bullets on them. Most of them got killed with pickaxes to the head and stuff like that. And this was covered up by the Pennsylvania Railroad because they had to go get more guys to make that cut come through. And starting about 10 years after that, their spirits started showing up around the area, and they would show up. They'd be moaning and singing. Some of them would actually be dancing, and it'd be like as if it was a party and this kind of stuff. Then you move forward to about 18. I think it was around 1880, which is about 50 years later. Someone put a memorial made out of wood there, memorialized, and they said that they died of cholera. There was a cholera outbreak, and they said there was a mass cholera outbreak that killed them. Then in the 19 teens, that wooden thing had rotted away, and they put a concrete one. And the thing is, where they put it wasn't where the bodies were anyhow. So time goes by, and all this was covered up by the railroads. Well, there's two doctors from Immaculata College out east. I forget their names now. One was a doctor of divinity. One was a doctor of archaeology. Their grandfather was a vice president of the Pennsylvania Railroad. And when he retired, he took all the papers about his cut massacre, and he had them up in his house. So when they were going through his papers, they found this stuff, and they found that that the railroad knew that these people had been massacred. So what they did, they made like their life work to find out about this. And they went down there and started doing archaeological digs along that railroad track. And that started in 2009, I think it was. By 2013, they had come across the remains of like 6 bodies. And those 6 bodies all showed evidence of being murdered. Their skulls were crushed with like a pickaxe blade. And they were able to identify with DNA 2 of the bodies. And Catherine Burns, one of the bodies, was identified. Tommy something was the other guy. I forget his name. Those 2 bodies got repatriated to Ireland, and they had a full funeral for them in Ireland. In the meantime, they had the remains, partial remains, about 6 more bodies. They were keeping them in metal boxes in the archaeological department. And then Amtrak withdrew permission for them to do any more digging, and they had to go to court. And they had spent 3 years in court before they got permission to resume the digging. In the meantime, these bodies, these partial bones and stuff that they had in storage would be rattling and stuff flying off the shelves and everything, as though they're saying, "Don't forget us." And a Lutheran cemetery in the area donated ground. Those bodies now that they find, the partial bodies and stuff, they're sealed in metal containers, and they're buried in a Lutheran cemetery out east until they can get DNA matches with them. Once they get DNA matches with them, then they'll take those bodies and repatriate them to Ireland. But these spirits have been haunting that place. You're talking, almost 5 dozen spirits, 57 people. Their spirits been haunting that place ever since, until the guy started doing the digging. Then things settled down. And the funny thing is that's a subdivision, a upper class subdivision outside of Philadelphia, and these people spent a lot of money for homes, and they wind up with spirits, and they appear in a shade of blue for some reason, but peering in their windows and stuff. And now they also there's a newspaper article about in around 1912, 1913, newspaper article says they appear outside the houses singing and dancing as if they're in a party. And that's probably the most haunted, single most haunted place along there. There's other places throughout Pennsylvania too that are. A couple I was able to debunk, which is satisfying too. Up north near Waynesboro, PA, Waynesboro, whatever. I forget the name of the town. It's in the book. Anyhow, they have a tradition at a railroad crossing. And they said back a long time ago, a school bus stalled on a railroad crossing. And so the driver got the kids out, and they were pushing the bus off the railroad crossing, and a train came and killed everybody, which would have been unfortunate. That would have been unfortunate if it was true. But so the thing is, now you're supposed to go up there. If you have to jump through hoops to see a ghost or see a spirit, it's not for real. Okay, you're supposed to go up there now, midnight, on a new moon, when there's no moon, when it's dark. Stop on the railroad crossing. Turn your lights off, turn your engine off, put your car in neutral, and the spirits of the little kids will push you off the railroad crossing. Yeah, it's not going to happen. Do that.
We'll do that,
It's-
Jason.
it's-
We'll do that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. And what it is I researched, okay? Since school buses were very first built, there has only been one accident involving a school bus in Pennsylvania where there was any kind of injury or fatality, and that was in West Newton. Nothing
Okay,
out
yeah,
east where this was. And there's another place in Pennsylvania, they have the same kind of tradition. It didn't happen. The only place where a school bus got hit and there was massive death happened in Texas, and that was a long time ago. But I find these things, they're interesting when you're able to debunk them like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a number of other ones. Railroading was a very, very dangerous occupation. That's why there's a number associated with railroads. If you were a railroad worker for the Pennsylvania Railroad between 1890 and 1920, you had a better chance of being killed or injured than if you were an infantryman in the First World War.
Wow.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
They were losing, literally dying, accidents and stuff like that on a railroad, thousands of people a year.
Jeez.
Yeah, a year.
Due to what? Like work?
Accidents on a railroad.
What?
You had
Probably collisions and stuff, like not
collisions, being brushed off the trains, being caught between trains. The brakeman was the most dangerous job on a railroad. They had that wheel up on top. You had to turn the wheel and run across the top of the cars to the next one, turn the wheel, and you had to keep repeating that to slow the train down.
Oh, my goodness.
Westinghouse invented the air brake, I believe it was 1867 or 68. It didn't become mandatory until 1910.
What about
another thing?
bank like the robberies on the trains?
Oh, well, the last major train robbery in the United States happened in Pennsylvania. Okay, there's no ghost associated with this, but I just find it interesting.
Yeah, I thought maybe there'd be a ghost.
But I find it interesting because it was local.
Yeah,
It's up here near Evansburg, Pennsylvania, east of Pittsburgh. Matter of fact, it's along the Ghost Town Trail, which is rails the trail bike trail. And it was 1927. They robbed a train, and it was called the Bolzano train robbery. And they got $20-some thousand of a, I think it was a mine payroll. And they killed a couple of people in the process. And they all got caught, because they were dumb. They all got caught within a week or two after the robbery, and they all got executed. But it was the last. I find it interesting because it was the last major train robbery in the United States.
Hey, Ed, tell us about your experience in the prison where they made the movie. What was that called?
Oh, Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
Redemption.
Oh,
yes. That's a good
fantastic.
story.
Yeah, we were down there for, let's see, the ParaPsychCon, which is a 3-day paranormal conference at the Mansfield Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio. And have you guys ever been there?
Yep.
No.
Oh,
you have?
Yes.
Well, it's as you come around the bend and you see it, it's a beautiful place. It looks like a castle. It's beautiful. It's nasty for the people that had to be in there. After it was 1892 or something like that when it opened, they had the one wing built, and the second wing was built by the prisoners themselves. That was their job. They built the second wing of the prison. And I was down there with a member of my team, Nancy, and I was down there huckstering my books. I had my table set up to sell my books and stuff. And we did a tour of the museum, a tour of the prison on a Friday night. And we came down going through that place. It's just awesome. I mean, you have to see it. They have an electric chair there called Old Sparky. I guess that's a pretty common name for electric chairs. And it was not from, nobody was ever executed at the Mansfield prison. Okay. The electric chair is from the Columbus, Ohio prison. And 320 people were executed in that, including 8 women. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And it goes back a ways. But anyhow, we're doing a tour of the place, and we wound up down in the old solitary confinement area. And we were sitting inside the solitary confinement. We had a K2 session with the spirit from down there. It was fantastic. Just conversing back and forth with him. We attempted to cross him over. We don't know if we were successful or not, but we tried to cross him over. It just, if you ever get a chance to go down there, just beside, we had a lot of paranormal activity in that place when we went through that museum. Just a lot of paranormal activity. But the history itself is really something else too. And of course, while we were there, I stayed in a motel from hell, but I'm not going to mention it because, yeah, that was interesting.
That's exciting. Were you going to say, Sean?
Yeah, I have a question, and this will probably be my last one for the evening. Maybe.
I know. You're talking about. You have a while to go, buddy.
Ed, do you believe in paranormal unity?
What is that?
What do you mean by paranormal unity?
Instead of, bashing other paranormal groups, accept the other paranormal groups and work with other paranormal groups to find answers that people seek?
Yes, I believe in a paranormal unity. I will not, however, work with a group who thinks they have the only answer. Okay. Just because somebody uses different investigative techniques than I use doesn't mean that they're using wrong investigative techniques. You're using a technique that works for them. Okay. But if they think they have found the answer, then no, I'm not going to work with them.
Do you think, I was thinking, how about my group and your group do a joint investigation somewhere sometime?
Yeah, sure. Here's the thing, though, with my group, okay, we don't do commercial stuff. In other words, if we have to pay to be somewhere, we're not going there. Okay, that's like various asylums and stuff like that. That we don't do that. We did the tour down there at the Mansfield Reformatory because it was part of the conference we were at, and we weren't actually there to do an investigation. We just happened to have a K2 meter with us, and we used it. But I don't like to go into places that are I call commercialized ghost hunting places.
There's a place down in Ohio. There's a place in Ohio called Prospect Place. Okay, and what it was is an old mansion built in the early 1900s, and actually the family who owned it worked with the railroads down there. But what they do, and this is a lot of reason why I like to go down there, is because the money that you pay to go through there, they actually put the money into the building. They don't make no money off it. They keep it going. Well, and the last time we were down there, Jason, them rooms look really, really nice. Like
that's been a couple of years now.
One place, I won't mention it. Okay, charges people $50 to $100 to go there and do paranormal investigations at night, and they are cautioned before they do it not to attempt to help the spirits cross over. So to me, that's holding the spirit. You're holding them hostage for entertainment purposes, and so that's one of the reasons why I don't.
Wasn't that like the Blair House? And don't they do that?
I'm not going to say where it was. It's in Pennsylvania, though. I just but that's I don't. Then another thing is that what I like is some of these ghost walks and stuff. And I tell people that if you go on one of these ghost walks, you're almost guaranteed not to see a ghost, but you will be told where they have been sighted. And the reason I say that is if it's an active haunting, an intelligent haunting, and just picture me, okay? Say I died a couple of years back, and now I'm haunting this house, and people they're going to bring people around here because I'm haunting the house. And how would you feel if someone's bringing 20, 30 strangers into your house 3 or 4 times and they want you to perform for them? That's pretty much that's pretty much why on these ghost walks, you usually you won't interact with any kind of a spirit. But the good thing about them is they show you where they are, and where they have been sighted like that. And I've been on a number of them. I enjoy them, but I know that I'm not going to see any ghosts. And especially up in Gettysburg. A couple of friends of mine run ghost walks up there, and I enjoy them, but I know I'm not going to see a ghost.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
I'm looking forward to Gettysburg. Actually, I've never been
me
there.
too. Oh,
Never
you'll love
been
it,
there.
Jason.
Yeah,
I've been there many times. That's my home away from home.
I get to Gettysburg on the average about twice a month, all year round. Matter of fact, I'll be in Gettysburg tomorrow. I'm going to Strasburg, to the Strasburg Railroad, and then over to the Railroad Museum in Pennsylvania. On the way back, I'll be stopping. I have outlets in Gettysburg. You know, they stock my books and stuff like that. And I'll be back there.
Maybe we'll see you in Gettysburg the end of September, if you're there.
Yeah, so we're going.
Didn't you write a book on Gettysburg?
No, I didn't write a book on Gettysburg. A buddy of mine, Mark Nesbitt, is up to the 8th book.
Mark. Yeah, we had him on the show.
And he sells my books in his place up here on Baltimore Street. But
I know where he's at. Yeah. Now, when you're up in Gettysburg, do you ever go by the Lincoln train station? Did you?
Funny you say that.
Investigating down there.
I'm going to be there tomorrow.
Oh, you are? Cool.
Yeah. You mean
that's a haunted area. Very haunted.
Yep. Oh yeah. And
then you got the Lincoln Diner too. That's pretty haunted too.
Mm-hmm. But what I'll be there tomorrow is at what they call the Lincoln Train Station Museum. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about the one on the other end of town where it was the actual station that he came through?
The actual station that Abraham Lincoln came through.
Okay, I know where you mean. No, I won't be there tomorrow. I'm going to be at the Lincoln Train Museum tomorrow.
Okay. Stop by that station. It's pretty.
And I'll be at one of my favorite places tomorrow too, Mr. Ed's. You ever stop at Mr. Ed's?
Yeah. If you like
Mr.
candy,
Ed's,
that's the place to go.
Mr. Ed's Elephant Museum and Candy Emporium.
Yep.
And I knew Mr. Ed. He just died a couple of years ago. You know, the funny thing is, when I was out there, people would stop and think that I was Mr. Ed because I look a lot like him until I lost some weight.
They sell the old time candies. You know, not what you see in the stores today. It's old time.
You can get candy cigarettes there. I got them. You can get candy cigarettes there at Mr. Ed's. And they also have bacon
root beer
candy.
barrels.
Yeah. All kinds of stuff. Wait a minute, I'll be right back. I want to show you something.
I could go for some. I can go for some breakfast.
Here you go. Here you go.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for coming.
Here you go. Candy cigarettes.
Oh my God. I remember those.
Oh,
I remember those when I was a kid, would always walk around with them.
Yeah.
Used to pretend I was smoking too with those. Those are good. So Ed, let's talk on the last part of our show. Why don't you guys compare equipment that you use? What do you find to be the most useful and legitimate?
Okay. What I use, I have, my case is out in the car. But in my case, I have 2 digital voice recorders. I have 2 digital video recorders, one with infrared. I got my digital SLR, and I have a Spirit Box 11, which I don't use, plus dowsing rods, and also K2 meter. That's pretty much what I have in my kit. It works for me. It works for us, and we don't tend to get too tech heavy because I am lucky enough to be working with some really good, talented psychics, and so I use my equipment that I use to verify what they're doing, and which is great. I got a friend up in Altoona. John, he has a really cool name, John Cool, but he has a camera rig that is like total spectrum. He's got the center camera is a high definition digital camera, video recorder. Okay, then on one side is infrared and the other side is ultraviolet. He has everything going on it. It's really cool. Not for me though. It's not one of my things, because I like to stick close working with a psychic, and we work together. and we've developed our methods over the years, and it really works for us.
Sean, what do you think about?
Yeah, what do you guys use?
That's all Jason there. I prefer the K2 meter and the digital voice recorder. That's all I need. But
So,
same here.
So how
Same
come?
here. What I do, I take that digital SLR and I hang it around my neck and I put it on video, and so it just records what I'm doing, and I get a lot of good results that way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how come you said you don't use the SB11 Spirit Box? Is there a reasoning behind that, or do you have thoughts?
Yeah.
Like...
The white noise that comes out of that box irritates me. Okay.
Same here.
The real loud.
Same here.
Okay.
Now I thought.
Yeah, I don't like
yeah,
that.
you know Cody. That was the tech man for TAPS.
Nah, not
I don't
really.
know personally, though.
Okay, he was their techie. He did all the stuff. I was talking with him. Okay, and he told me how to eliminate the white noise. He says you have to install a noise gate in the output of it, and a noise gate is an item that rock musicians use.
Yep, okay. I got plenty of those.
Yeah, and they plug it in their guitar. And the thing is, I just never got around to doing it and trying it. That's all. What I do like about that SB11 though is it has a temperature monitor on it, and it's pretty decent at finding cold spots. Because it'll react when the temperature drops more. You can set the sensitivity on it. And I set it so it'll react when the temperature drops more than 10 degrees. And once again, just like with the K2 meter, when you're working, it's a tool that gives you that spirits may be there, but then you have to. It's just a tool, and you have to go on beyond that then to interact with them.
Right. Did you ever use a REM pod at all? This seemed to
be
but
I've seen them
getting more popular.
I've seen them yeah, and it's I don't know. It just I don't know. It's not something that I was interested in. Just like recently, well, I'll tell you one thing. Other things we do use. We use ping pong balls and feathers for trigger items. Okay, but I saw someone recently had some damn thing that I call it Teddy Ruxpin. It's a teddy bear that
Boo Bear.
Spirits come. I don't know. The spirits come close and the bear talks or something. And I says, I thought it was a toy.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. They're actually making those like teddy bears with like REM pod lights in them and stuff. So when something gets close, they light up different colors and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of like what this thing was. I just thought it was a toy of some sort. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Right. How do you use the ping pong balls and the feathers?
As trigger items, we'll set them, and this works especially when you're working with the spirits of kids. Okay, you get them to announce their presence by moving these things, moving them, and you got to set them in such a way that there's no breeze, especially with the feathers, no breeze or anything like that that's going to move them. Ping pong balls actually work better.
With red cups, yes.
It doesn't take a lot of energy to move a ping pong ball and a feather because they're light. So
right, yeah, that's the idea on trigger items. And sometimes people will use little toy trucks and stuff. There's a place on Route 30 called 1806 Antiques. We interact with the spirits of two young children there using a little toy truck, and get them to roll it across the floor.
Hey Ed, did you get a chance to go to Montefiore Hospital before they tore it down on Route 30?
Yes, and I have a friend of mine that was a nurse that worked there, and you wouldn't believe the stories he was able to tell me. I was there when it was still safe to go through there. I did not put it in my Route 30 book because I was afraid if I did, people would start crawling around in there and get hurt.
Yeah,
it was dangerous. They had at one point they used to keep the accident victims from accidents on Route 30. They would keep them in that hospital. That hospital had a morgue. All hospitals have morgues, but they have keep them in that hospital's morgue until like a coroner could come pick it up or a funeral director could come pick them up. And so there was lot of activity that way. And there was also around the maternity ward in there was a lot of activity too.
Any stories you want to share?
Well, nothing I could verify. Nothing I was able to verify. I mean, I like I said, a friend of mine was a nurse there, and he told me about lots of times after the maternity ward had long been closed, you could walk down the hall and you could still hear babies crying in there and things like that.
There was a lot.
That would be a residual haunting. Okay, and the same thing down around the morgue. That you hear some activity down there, but most hospitals will have some kind of residual haunting. You know, hospitals, prisons, theaters. Were live action theaters. You know, playhouses. For some reason, these places seem to attract it, and they have a lot of hauntings in them.
I would have liked to have gone through that. I've heard a lot of stories around the family. A lot of weird stuff happened. I wish there was a movie about it, though.
Have you ever had a spirit like attach and follow you home by chance?
Yes. Beverly and I were we'd done like I say, out there at the Railroad Museum. We've done 7 major investigations there. Okay.
Oh my.
One time coming home, we're riding in the car, and all of a sudden I smell pipe tobacco. I don't smoke. I said, Bev, are you smoking a pipe? She says, oh, yeah, right. She says, I smell it too. I said, so she turns around, she looks in the back seat. She says, oh, we got a passenger.
Oh, jeez.
I said, who is it? Yeah, so I'm already turning around. And she says, it's one of the old workers from the railroad. He just wanted to ride along with us, see where we're going. Well, I said, well, tell him we're going back to the museum. And that's what we did. We went back to the museum, and then we cleansed the car so we didn't have anybody else following us home. I did also in other investigations. I have had I've gotten attacked by negativity, or something would follow me home, and it would just not dangerous, but mentally straining. That would cause me mental stress. That it would be like a negative spirit or something would come and just be aggravating and make me miserable, make me negative. And so I had to be careful with that sometimes, because when it's happening, I don't realize it's happening. I'm being an SOB, biting people's head off and everything else, and I don't know why I'm doing it. And so then I'll do a white sage smudge cleansing of myself. And if that doesn't work, then I'll have Bev do it, for me, and that usually works it out. That's the thing you have to watch out for. And another thing, what we've been doing since that fellow decided to follow us home from the Railroad Museum, what we have done now, anytime we finish up an investigation, we'll smudge ourselves with not smudge, but I'll use a little bit of sage water on myself, and maybe squirt a little bit in the car. But yeah, that's something we learned. You learn along the way.
Oh yes.
But we never had anything super nasty or anything like that follow us.
That's good to know. Do you have any books in the making?
Yes, I'm working on one now. I've been working with 2 friends of mine, the spirit of a young girl named Amelia, who was murdered in 1865. She was a black girl up in northwestern Pennsylvania. She was hung by a tree. She was accused of doing witchcraft and stuff like this. And it was all a lie. Okay, although she was capable of doing witchcraft. Been working with her now for 2.5 years, and what she wanted, she came to a person. She wanted. This is my friend Sibel. Sibel has a store up there that she has pagan supplies and witchcraft supplies and stuff like that in there. And she found herself ordering ingredients, didn't know what the ingredients were, and she was ordering. She researched it and found out they were ingredients for voodoo spells.
Oh, jeez.
And finally got in touch with the spirit of Amelia. And what Amelia wanted her and another friend of hers to do was to curse the descendants of the guy who hung her. Okay. And they informed her in on certain terms, we don't do that kind of crap. It's not going to happen. And so finally, she wanted her story told. And so for 2.5 years, I've been working with it. We're just coming to the end of it right now. So I'm working on a book we call From the Files of P.I.P.P. Okay, paranormal investigators, right. Pennsylvania investigators, paranormal phenomenon. And that's going to be the featured story in the book. Like right now, I'm up to about 6,000 words. About another 2,500 words is going to finish her story. And then I have other interesting cases that we worked on. Like case I was telling you before about the people who was dabbling in the witchcraft. That's going to be in that book, and things like that. That's the one I'm working on there. And trying to think, I'd have to look at my computer. I got another book I'm working on too. So that's all on the back burner. I did a Route 22 and a Route 30. I'm thinking about also doing a Route 6 across the northern tier.
How far does your Route 22 go?
That starts at Point State Park in Pittsburgh. It goes right through to Stemmy's Tavern in Easton, PA, out where they make the crayons. Funny thing, both the 22 and the 30 book, they start in Point State Park and they both end at a bar. Yeah,
that's funny.
Stemmy's Tavern out in Easton, PA is haunted by the spirit of a gangster. Yeah, but it's haunted by the spirit of a gangster out there. It took a hell of a lot to kill him. He got shot like 6 times with a revolver, 3 or 4 times with a rifle, and they finished him off with a shotgun.
Oh my!
And he was still crawling on the floor.
So
he haunted.
So with all the investigations you've been on and all the years involved with everything paranormal, what would your advice be for, say some of our listeners that are like, I'm going to try and start getting involved with paranormal, like Sean and I, we have our own advice, but, like we want to get your input as well. And, what could you recommend? Number
one, I'd tell them, first of all, you have to decide what your motives are for wanting to do it. Okay. Our motives, because we want to help people. That's what we want. We want to help people. We don't do it for entertainment. We don't do it for entertainment. We do it. It's a serious thing, and we do it to help people. And that'd be the first thing I'd tell them. Second, I would tell them to find a paranormal group in your area, okay, that is respected and as they're doing that they're doing it the way it should be done, and are getting results and stuff like that. And then join it as a trainee of some sort. Like I say, way back when I joined up with Patty Wilson and the Ghost Research Foundation out in central Pennsylvania. We did a lot of work out there. I mean, we investigated the Antietam battlefield down there, with permission. Yeah, that's nice. Because there's a flag officer buried on the southern end of the bridge down there, the Burnside Bridge, and we thought we had a member who thought he had the location done. He even went to the point of renting ground penetrating radar and everything else, but we didn't find it. And it cost him like $3,000 for that ground penetrating radar and an operator. But yeah, and we didn't find it. But that's things like that happen. And but you hook up with a good team that has a good reputation, and not just a bunch of high school kids running around with K2 meters.
Oh my God!
Yeah, high school kids.
Halloween's coming up too.
Not old enough to drink, but they can summon demons.
I'll tell you about it real quick. I'll tell you about a cemetery. You may have heard of it. It's what's in that cemetery down there on 22 from the movie. I forgot the name of the cemetery. It's was in the Night of the Living Dead.
Oh,
movie, Night of the Living Dead.
Was that Mount Carmel?
No, that's the truth.
It'll hit you like 3
Livermore. That's it. Livermore Cemetery. Okay, that's not too far from where I live. If you go over, that place has been trashed like you cannot believe. Tombstones knocked over the hillside. They use tombstones for building bonfires and making fire pits with them. Beer parties, all this other stuff. It is. And if you get caught over there trespassing, local magistrate is not going to give you a fine. He's sending you straight to the Indiana County Jail. You can appeal while you're in jail. Okay. You're going to get like 10 days, but even so. But
All right.
I've seen this damage over there. Here's the problem with that. Okay. They said Night of the Living Dead, Livermore Cemetery. That's at the beginning of the movie. You see the big sign that says Livermore Cemetery. Ramirez took that sign from Livermore Cemetery up to Evans City and put it back up there and took the picture and then took the sign back where it belonged. That cemetery was never. The cemetery was never in the movie. That's one.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yeah, that's one.
Oh, wow.
Two is it was a movie. It was a movie. There's no zombies running around there.
How do you know? You never know. There might be. I don't know.
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
that's kind of like Quaker
invented the modern concept of the zombie anyhow. Before him, there was a different concept.
What was that?
The other thing is they say that there's spirit activity in the cemetery because when they flooded the town of Livermore, they moved the cemetery up on the hill and they're upset about being moved. That's also wrong. That cemetery was on top of the hill from day one.
Mm-hmm.
But the one cool thing about the town of Livermore, in 1948, that town was flooded out for flood prevention program. They made the is it the Loyal Hannah Dam? I think it's the Loyal Hannah Dam. I'm not sure the name of the dam, but if you go down there, now there's a rails and trails, West Penn rails and trails there, and there's like a bridge. You get halfway across the bridge. You go down in the morning when it's misty. You look down there. Sometimes you can see the rooftops of the town in the mist.
Yeah.
The cool thing about that is that's a residual haunting. The cool thing about that is the town was bulldozed by the Corps of Engineers before they flooded it. So there's no buildings there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have seen those rooftops. I've gone down there early in the morning, and I have seen those rooftops down through the mist. You can actually see them in there.
Wow.
But
Don't they call that
the
Stick
cemetery
Town?
is not haunted, except maybe it's haunted by some really, really upset spirits that are just laying in wait for someone to come back to trash the place before.
I don't know why I always thought that cemetery was Mount Carmel.
No, wasn't it? I thought it was St. Xavier Cemetery up there in Evans City. Do I have that right or wrong? I'm not sure. I think it was. I get the impression St. Xavier's was a cemetery that was used in the movie, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm probably wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I caught my first full-figured shadow man in a cemetery. Remember that, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I was taking
Yep.
pictures, and out of like 400 pictures, there was one with a legitimate, like, tall shadow man walking, amongst the tombs, and it was pretty fascinating.
It was cool.
Very fascinating.
But,
wow.
So when's your next investigation, Ed?
We just finished one, and we're doing the work on it now. Listening to video, staring at videos, and listening to audio and stuff like that. We did last Saturday of a fire hall done near Connellsville, south of Connellsville, that was used as a morgue for a while. And we got some good results down there. We were able to cross over a number of spirits there. And that's the old fire hall. And our next investigation is going to be in the new fire hall of the same fire company, because we had activity there. And there's an American Legion up in East Conemaugh Township, up in Johnstown, that has some kind of spirit activity up there. We're not sure, but they had 2 bartenders quit because they were getting tired of hearing their names called, and there was nobody there. And that's pretty much it right now. I think we have a couple of private residences on the back burner right now, too.
Cool. Well,
I
Jen.
fact-checked that. It is the Evans City Cemetery for the Night of the Living Dead.
That's what it's called, just the Evans City Cemetery.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I knew it was in Evans City. Yeah.
It's real close to the witching hour, and I would like to thank Ed for being on the show and sharing
And
his
thank you
book,
for allowing me being on the show.
Thank you for joining us for Torture
Yes,
Tuesday.
thank you.
Torture Tuesday.
Hey, can I give myself a little plug here? Can I give myself a little plug? Like to invite anybody that wants to check out my website, www.ekelemen.com. That's EKELEMEN.com. That has my books listed on it, and a little bit of bio information on me, and I think I have a couple sample columns and stuff like that in there. And I like people to come visit my website, and all my books are available on Amazon, as well as in my website list like 30 some retail places I have across the state.
That's great.
Nice.
Okay.
And that's my commercial. Now you guys got to do a commercial too, right?
Oh, don't worry, we will.
And remember, tonight's episode was sponsored by Carnation.
Right.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers for Carnation. Want to thank Ed again for being on the show, and you can follow us on YouTube and Facebook. And next week guest is that Irene or Eileen Jones?
Yeah.
Eileen Jones with the Backroads Paranormal. And
Great.
everybody, have a good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, and thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, Ed.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I
hunting.
really, really enjoyed it.
We really enjoyed your company too. Happy hunting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.